What happens when the person you trust most becomes your greatest threat? When the man sworn to protect you is slowly, methodically planning your death. Today, we re-diving into one of the most chilling cases of domestic murder ever hear a story where medical knowledge became a weapon, where love turned to betrayal, and where a mother's instinct would be the only thing standing between a killer and the perfect crime. This is the story of Stacy Hunucker, devoted mother, beloved teacher, and victim of a calculated poisoning that would span years. But before we reveal how this nightmare unfolded, let's start at the beginning, when everything seemed perfect. For 32-year-old Stacy Hunucker, home was Mount Holly, North Carolina. She had married her high school sweetheart Joshua, and together they were raising Piper and Willow. Everyone who knew her said the same thing. She was a great mother, a happy person. But beneath this picture of domestic contentment, something sinister was brewing. And on the 23rd of September, 2018, Stacy's life would be stolen in the most calculated, chilling way imaginable. Stacy Robinson had been born in Mecklenburg County, the daughter of John and Susie Robinson. She had two brothers, Eric and Paul, and a sister, Amy. After graduating from East Gaston High School, she went on to earn an associate's degree in paralegal sciences from Gaston College. She worked as a paralegal at two law firms, Ted Grieve and Associates, and Reagan before transitioning to what she truly loved, teaching. She worked at the preschool at First Baptist Charlotte, then at First Methodist Preschool in Mount Holly, and later at the Stowe Young Men's Christian Association. Her friend Shell O'Day said she was skilled at crafting, making little painted wooden signs that she would sell. But there were struggles beneath the surface. In February 2013, following the birth of their first daughter, Piper, Stacy began experiencing unexplained medical problems. The symptoms were vague but deeply troubling. Her health seemed to decline without any clear explanation, leaving doctors baffled. Then, just 5 months later, in July 2013, disaster struck. A devastating fire tore through their home, destroying most of the couple. In November 2014, after the birth of their second daughter, Willow, Stacy was admitted to the hospital with a dangerously low heart rate and blood pressure. She was placed in the intensive care unit for several days. The medical team ran test after test, searching for answers, but they couldn't determine what was causing her symptoms. It was as if her body was under attack from an invisible enemy. Suzanne updated the GoFundMe page, describing Stacy's condition. After many tests, she wrote, the doctors were still stumped as to what was going on. In January 2015, Stacy was readmitted with a low heart rate. This time, the situation became life-threatening. Once she was settled into her room, she went into cardiac arrest. Her heart simply stopped. She was placed on a ventilator to help her breathe, fighting for her life while doctors scrambled to understand what was happening to this young woman. The following month, February 2015, a decision was made that shocked everyone. Stacy had a pacemaker implanted, an extreme measure for a woman who was not yet 30 years old. For someone so young to require a device to regulate their heartbeat suggested something was seriously, fundamentally wrong with her heart's electrical system. What no one knew at the time was that these weren't natural medical problems at all. Back to Stacy. When he turned around, he said he saw her slumped over the side of the couch. A fourth version of events. 4 different stories, 4 different versions. If someone is telling the truth about what they were doing when they discovered a loved one dead, the story doesn't change. The truth is the truth. When paramedics arrived, they found Stacy unresponsive. She was blue. She wasn't breathing. They rushed her to the hospital, but despite their efforts, it was too late. Stacy Hunucker was pronounced dead. The cause of death appeared obvious to everyone involved. Cardiac arrest. She had well-documented heart problems. She had a pacemaker. She had a history of mysterious cardiac events. The local police treated it as a natural death, a tragic but not suspicious passing of a young woman whose heart had simply given out. But Joshua's behavior in the hours and days that followed revealed something deeply wrong. He refused to allow a coroner to perform an autopsy. He was adamant about it. Even though Stacy had registered to be an organ donor for someone who was supposed to facilitate organ donation, refusing an autopsy was highly unusual. But Joshua was insistent, unwavering. Within 2 days, Stacy's body was cremated. The speed was remarkable, almost unseemly. Most families take weeks to arrange. Looking back, every symptom Stacy experienced was later found to be consistent with poisoning from tetrahydrozoline, a chemical that, when ingested, can seriously affect the heart and body, sometimes fatally. The pattern was there all along. Unexplained episodes of low heart rate and blood pressure. Sudden cardiac events that baffled medical professionals. A young woman with no family history of heart disease, suddenly requiring a pacemaker. Joshua, with his extensive medical training as a flight paramedic, would have known exactly what symptoms to expect. He would have known how to administer the poison in doses that would not immediately kill but would cause chronic, debilitating health problems. He would have known that standard medical tests wouldn't detect it. He would have known that doctors would blame her heart, not suspect poisoning. For her mother, Susie, there was always a nagging worry. If she had a dream that something was wrong, she would call her daughter immediately to make sure everything was okay. A mother's instinct telling her that something wasn't right, even if she couldn't put her finger on what. The medical emergencies had created another devastating problem: crushing debt. The GoFundMe campaign had helped, but the financial pressure was immense. Hospital stays, specialists, the pacemaker surgery, ongoing care, the bills kept mounting. And all the while, Joshua was planning something far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. He was slowly, methodically poisoning his wife, creating a medical history that would make her sudden death seem inevitable, unremarkable, natural. On the evening of the 23rd of September 2018, Joshua called 911. He told responding officers he had found his 32-year-old wife unresponsive. She was slumped over the side of the couch. But his story about what he had been doing before discovering her kept changing, shifting, evolving depending on who he was speaking to. At the scene, he told police he had gone outside to ensure their cars were locked. There had been a spate of recent auto burglaries in the neighborhood, he explained. He wanted to make sure their vehicles were secure. It was a plausible story. But to one friend, he said something entirely different. He told them he had gone for a walk to burn some energy. To another friend, he gave yet another version. He said he had been out back, cutting some wood for signs that he made. A third story, contradicting the first two. And to his mother-in-law, Susie, he told her he had been sitting at the kitchen table working on his laptop with his cremations, taking time to process their grief, to say goodbye properly, to make thoughtful arrangements. Joshua had her cremated almost immediately, as if he couldn't wait to destroy the evidence of what he'd done. And within those same 2 days, Joshua filed a claim for her $250,000 life insurance policy. Joshua seemed detached from the whole process, as if he were merely an observer rather than a grieving widower, as if he were going through the motions rather than mourning the loss of his wife of 8 years, the mother of his 2 young daughters. After Stacy's death, Joshua hired a babysitter named Kaylin McDonald to look after Piper and Willow. What she witnessed in the months that followed was deeply disturbing. She would later tell CBS 48 Hours' Peter Van Sant exactly what she had observed, and her account painted a chilling picture. She said she never saw Joshua sad. Not once, not ever. He didn't cry. He didn't appear depressed. He didn't seem to miss his wife at all. Instead, he was happy, very happy. He was happy with his new girlfriend, a colleague named Jennifer Elkins, who everyone called Jen. They were all over each other all the time. Kaylin said it was always about Jen. They talked constantly about their future together, about moving into a house together, not the house Joshua had shared with Stacy, but buying a brand new one, starting fresh. Joshua rarely spoke about his deceased wife. He never said he missed Stacy. He never said he missed the girl's mother. He never shared memories of her with his daughters. It was as if Stacy had never existed, as if she'd been erased from their lives completely. Kaylin couldn't understand it. When her own father had died, she had talked about him constantly, unable to stop herself from sharing memories, from keeping his memory alive. The new girlfriend was visible in Joshua's life and in the lives of his two young daughters. Within 6 months of Stacy's death, she had moved into the home he had previously shared with his wife. The house where Stacy had died, the bed where Stacy had slept. It was as if she was simply Stacy's replacement, stepping into a role that had been vacated. Joshua's colleagues at Atrium Health's MedCenter Air had noticed the same disturbing pattern. They told investigators that Joshua seemed completely unaffected by his wife's death. They expressed deep concern to police about how quickly he had moved on with his girlfriend, about how visible she was, about how quickly she'd become part of his life. The speed was unseemly, inappropriate, shocking. They described him as appearing unfazed, as if Stacy's death had been an inconvenience rather than a tragedy, as if he'd been waiting for it to happen. And then there was the money. After collecting the $250,000 from Stacy's life insurance policies, Joshua went on a spending spree that raised eyebrows throughout the community. In May 2019, 9 months after her daughter's death, Susie Robinson made a decision that would change everything. She contacted the North Carolina Department of Insurance. She filed fraud allegations against her son-in-law. She suspected he had killed Stacy for the insurance money, to be free to pursue his relationship with his mistress without the inconvenience of a divorce. She had no idea this simple act, this mother's intuition, would trigger a full-blown murder investigation that would reveal the horrifying truth about what had happened to her daughter. Insurance Commissioner Mike Causey said that when the referral came through from Susie Robinson, it was sent straight to their Criminal Investigations Division. Initial reports from the local police department had listed Stacy's death as natural, a heart attack. Nothing suspicious. Case closed. File it away. But the insurance investigators weren't satisfied. They would dig deeper. They would question everything. They would follow the evidence wherever it led. The team assembled was formidable. Investigators from the North Carolina Department of Insurance Criminal Investigations Division, Gaston County Police, the Department of Homeland Security. Special Agent Lisa Morgan was assigned to the case. And as she began her investigation, she discovered something that would prove absolutely crucial. Because Stacy had been an organ donor, the Life Shared Donor Center had preserved a vial of her blood before she was cremated. This was routine procedure for organ donors, a standard practice to facilitate the donation process and ensure compatibility. But it would prove to be the difference between justice and a perfect crime. The single piece of evidence that Joshua had uncounted on, hadn't planned for, couldn't destroy. The blood sample was sent to a laboratory for comprehensive toxicology testing. Standard tests came back negative for common poisons and drugs. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. But the investigators didn't stop there. They requested more specialized tests, broader screening, looking for substances that wouldn't normally be included in a routine toxicology panel. The results were absolutely shocking. Mike Causey said there were traces of poison in Stacy's blood, specifically tetrahydrozoline, a common chemical used in eye drops to reduce redness. But this wasn't a therapeutic level, wasn't an amount that could be explained by normal use. The concentration was 30 to 40 times higher than therapeutic amounts. These were levels that could be explained by someone using eye drops as directed or accidentally ingesting a small amount. These were levels that could only come from deliberate, repeated, systematic poisoning. Forensic toxicologist Demi Garvin reviewed the results with growing alarm. She said that the presence of tetrahydrozoline in that concentration absolutely warranted further investigation. She described it as a modern-day Mickey Finn, where a substance is introduced into a beverage without the consent of the individual. This was poisoning. This was murder. Tetrahydrozoline is a decongestant found in over-the-counter eye drops like Vizin and nasal sprays. When used as directed, applied externally to the eyes or nose, it's relatively safe. But when ingested, it becomes something else entirely, something deadly. The symptoms of tetrahydrozoline ingestion can mimic natural illness and can be dangerous without being easy to detect on routine tests. For someone with Stacy's documented heart condition, for someone with a pacemaker, someone whose heart was already compromised, it would be particularly deadly. The poison would attack her weakest point, her most vulnerable system, making her death seem like nothing more than another tragic cardiac event. And crucially, devastatingly, standard toxicology screens don't routinely test for it. It's not part of the normal panel of substances that pathologists look for in suspected poisonings. Unless you're specifically looking for tetrahydrozoline, unless you know what you're searching for, unless you have reason to suspect it, you won't find it. It's invisible. North Carolina State Attorney Jordan Green would later explain to the court that the medicine has a dramatic effect on your heart and would cause heart stoppage or heart failure. This wasn't an accident. This was calculated, premeditated, cold-blooded murder. Joshua Hunucker, as a flight paramedic since 2013, as someone with extensive medical training, would have had intimate, detailed knowledge of medications and their effects on the human body. Court documents specifically noted that his training and experience would certainly provide a thorough understanding of various types of medication and how those medications could react in the body. Additionally, his employment provided access to non-controlled substances which did not require logging or inventory control. He had the means, the knowledge, and the opportunity. The investigation expanded rapidly. Detectives began interviewing Joshua's friends, family, colleagues, anyone who might have information. And what they learned made the case even more disturbing, even more chilling. About 2 weeks before Stacy's death, something significant had happened just 20 miles south of Mount Holly. A nurse named Lana Sue Clayton had been arrested on the 31st of August 2018 for poisoning her husband, Stephen Clayton, with eye drops. Clayton had confessed to sneaking eye drops into her husband's water over 3 days until he died. The case received extensive media coverage in the Charlotte area. Everyone was talking about it. Court documents noted prosecutors pointed to several similarities between that case and Joshua S. Both worked in the medical field. Both had been home alone with their spouse at the time of death. Both deaths were initially ruled as natural causes, Both used tetrahydrozoline poisoning. Court documents allege that within days of learning about the South Carolina case, Joshua had surreptitiously placed eye drops in Stacy's water and exposed her to deadly amounts of tetrahydrozoline. But there was more. During their investigation, detectives spoke to Joshua's former colleagues at Atrium Health's MedCenter Air. Before Stacy's death, Joshua had told 2 co-workers that if he killed someone, he would do so using Visine or other eye drops. These weren't jokes or idle comments. These were specific threats from a medical professional who understood exactly how it worked. He had told them precisely how he would commit murder if he ever chose to do so. And then, shortly after the South Carolina case received its media coverage, Stacy Hunucker was dead. This was premeditated, calculated murder. In our next video, we'll cover Joshua's arrest, his shocking behavior afterward, and the twisted lengths he went to in order to avoid justice, including staging his own kidnapping and committing an unthinkable act against his own daughter. The truth is darker than you can imagine.